In the last day or two of each year, as well as early in the morning on the first day of the new year, I meditate and investigate the future timelines I'm shown projecting into the year. I compile what I see into a blog article in English and Japanese, which I post on Amoeba under the name Billy in Japan. I posted this year's blog on January 1st at 9:38 a.m. This video contains the content of the blog article. Those of you who follow my annual predictions know that all of them don't actually become reality. This year's predictions are rather unusual since the meditative imagery is a confirmation of what I've been receiving since early December of last year. This is the first time in my life when I've gotten so many advanced scenes of the future so far ahead, in keeping with the huge chaos of what this year seems to hold. I should point out that my accuracy record is quite high on Earth events, but not quite as high on political developments. I really hope that the majority of my predictions don't come to pass this time around. Just as in past years, I've marked what I've seen in my visions with an asterisk and left what I intuited unmarked. The world in general. The Earth is active this year. Earthquakes and monumental weather events were in every timeline I followed. Flooding all over, tsunamis, a shaking Earth with bombardment from space, solar flares, radiation. Food seemed to be a problem in many countries as crops failed due to the weather. Blackouts in many areas around the globe indicative of power grid failures. Something connected with the Chinese seemed to be affecting the internet. Chinese hacker attack? In 2 timelines. The internet failed in most futures, regionally in some, and worldwide in 1. China. Just as in last year's predictions, China seems to take first place this year. The country continues to disintegrate economically and socially, pushing President Xi to invade Taiwan. One of Taiwan's timelines had an interesting twist. In that timeline, the new third party split the electorate and the pro-China KMT got elected, leading China to hold off on an invasion. Similar to other countries around the world, severe earthquakes and weather events caused China to try to usurp food from other countries they've been infiltrating economically. A disease they've been trying to hide infects enough of the population to make it known worldwide. Chinese hackers attempt to disrupt the world banking system to pave the way for a new currency to replace the US dollar. China becomes friendlier with Russia, but by the end of the year, Russia realizes that it's being duped by China and starts to distance itself from it. The Chinese Navy starts a Pacific War by attacking ships in the region. Australia enters the conflict. India also joined in most timelines. In the one future I followed, in which China did not go to war, there were citizens' riots across the country that broke China into various self-governing regions. Russia. Russia defeats the Ukrainian forces. Zelensky is forced out and Ukraine becomes a smaller country. Russia is hit with major natural disasters, but the war-stimulated economy continues to grow. I saw an assassination attempt on Putin in 2 timelines. China and Russia joined forces in the Pacific War I saw, but Russian involvement seemed to be mostly symbolic as China faced off against countries such as the Philippines. I saw huge explosions in parts of Russia. Meteor strikes? Nuclear accident? In one interesting timeline, Russia sent troops to help the conservative side in an American Civil War. US. The US is in for a chaotic year. Earth changes, especially earthquakes and radical weather events, will affect the country. The erratic weather will cause crop failures that will resonate around the world it exports to. The general feeling I got when looking at the US was like watching a pressure cooker that was bulging and set to explode. The US dollar will crash during the year due to excessive national debt and the introduction of other currencies to be used for energy transactions. The truth about the COVID vaccine's life-threatening side effects will make the news. America was on the verge of collapse and civil war in every future I visited. Rampant lawlessness in the democratic cities, a lack of jobs, failing social welfare networks due to the border invasion by migrants. Images of cities like San Francisco were like those of third world countries. China helped to get a Democrat, not Biden, elected in 2024 by hacking the elections in a timeline. In most others, Trump or Kennedy won the election. However, in one timeline, there was no election and the states seemed divided, with the US being a mixture of red and blue states. New car-stopping repossession software creates a ruckus among Americans and adds to the unrest already caused by the woke agenda of the Democrats. In the futures where China's Pacific War envelops the Senkakus and Okinawa, the US is unable to project force in the beginning due to its over-involvement in the Ukraine and the depleted military caused by Obama-Biden. Japan is forced to fight and hold its own until Australia and other anti-China nations can assist it. In the case where the Democrats won the election, America became controlled by China. Japan. This is one year that you really want to have your BOP within reach. Japan usually gets more than its share of natural disasters, but this year is one when I think we can expect the unexpected. Last year's weather patterns were strange and unpredictable, affecting crops across the nation, but this year's will be even worse. Kishida will hang on until the very end due to his ego, and will go down in history as a PM that failed the nation in his international ego trips that increased friction with Russia and helped drive the Chinese closer, giving them the confidence to wage war. The My Number national ID system got hacked in one future, and the citizens' data found its way to the internet. Japan is forced to ramp up to defend its territory against China or to give it to China. Japan's weak data security allows the Chinese to use its servers as springboards for international hacking attacks. Hacking attacks and Japanese technology theft by the Chinese reach record levels this year. Japan's reliance on inbound tourists backfires as the year progresses and the dollar crashes. However, the tourism helped to create an interest in things Japanese overseas, so certain Japanese products enjoy increased sales as a result. China's new disease enters the country and causes a problem, but fails to shut down the country as it did with COVID-19. By the end of the year, Japanese people become aware of the large loss of jobs taken over by AI. Japan's hydrogen fuel industry takes off in 2024. As Japan's new chip factories come online, the regions the companies are located in start to thrive economically. Africa. Extreme weather creates more famine on the continent. China continues to steal resources, but as it does, the African nations begin to react and default on their commitments to China, creating problems for it in terms of resources needed for manufacturing. Australia. I saw major fires in Australia. Australia seemed to be in a frenzied state of military mobilization to counteract the Chinese. India. I saw both floods and drought in India influencing its food supply. India begins to move away from the Russia-China alliance and ties with Japan become closer. Middle East. Israel defeats Hamas. The Muslim nations combine to fight against Israel. The region becomes a hotbed of coals as the US sends troops in. Fighting in the Middle East escalated in every future I visited. South America. Earthquakes of huge intensity. The shift away from China in the majority of countries China has been trying to woo. Mountains toppling. North Korea. North Korea rolls out weaponry that surprises the West this year. Missiles that US firepower cannot intercept. The North Korean Navy suddenly becomes a formidable force in the Pacific. Canada. Weather pattern changes in the country increase its arable acreage. In spite of geologic events, this is one of the few countries that seem to be comparatively stable during this year of chaos. Pacific Islands. Several islands in the Pacific will be flooded during the year and may become uninhabitable. Thanks for watching.